And he's like, do you want a shambong, Ryan? I'm like, no. So there's like, here's the state budget director, a bunch of
Did they
lobbyists.
not go to college? Like,
It just seems like, I love champagne. I don't need to drink it in it. Just give me a big glass.
it's funny. Funny.
For this one here, do you think that needs to be? It's like money, but it's not exactly money.
I don't have a friend who's the guy. I have it written off gas.
The resolution is one for sure, but it's 13B.
I can't tell with the sunglasses. I think it might be.
Yeah, I did read it. Up myself.
And then the road contracts too, right?
Are you ready?
Yeah, are you?
Sure.
I've been waiting on you.
Yeah, you are. You're getting organized, I know you.
Just, I like Brenda and I to be on the same page. We may both be wrong, but as long as we're wrong together, it's okay.
It shows a front.
Right. Good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order. Welcome. It's Monday, June 3rd. This is the Bath Charter Township Board of Trustees meeting. Happy to see you all. Happy June. We'll start with a call to order and then follow up with the roll call.
Mr. Funes Bliss?
Here.
Ms. Butler Challenger here. Ms. Wilson?
Here.
Ms. Hagerman?
Here.
Ms. Kellerman?
Here.
Mr. Phillips?
Here.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Here.
Thank you.
All right, the gang's all here. Next on the agenda, and if you're in the audience and are looking for an agenda, there's some on the lectern there, is our civic reflection. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance and then end with a moment of silence. If you're able to stand, please join us for the pledge. And now a moment of silence. Thank you. All right, next up on the agenda is approval of the agenda. I have two changes that I have heard about. The first is for item 14, new business, large B, items for action, striking small a, K-9 transfer of ownership, letter of agreement. And the second item I have is adding the pride recognition that we did last year as item D under that same list. So 14, large B, small d would be the pride resolution. So that would end up with A, road committee contracts, B, board of trustees meeting, C, holiday closure, D, pride resolution. Are there other oh, go ahead.
My fault. We talked about this, me adding the signs for Park Lake, and I got distracted this week, and I didn't put it on the agenda that for this, the sign for the beach on Park Lake Road to slow down traffic, which is not a, shouldn't be a big controversial, quick thing we can go through. My mistake.
Where do you want to put that?
Wherever you like, under, it shouldn't be new because we talked about it, so items for action.
Unfinished business.
Unfinished business. Park Lake Road signs.
And you're looking for action tonight?
I would like to, yeah, I think it's been batted around so long and it's so easy.
These are the beach signs you're talking about, right?
Yeah, just beaches here, slow down, don't run over our children, something like that.
All right, so 13, large B, small c would be Park Lake beach signs.
Yeah.
Other proposed changes, and we can take these one at a time or all together, depending on how you feel about each of them. Karen, no changes from you, right?
No, I was going to say that the chair of the road committee is here, George Baker. If he'd like to speak to the beach signs, I think he has an update on that.
Okay,
Great.
Great.
I didn't see it on there.
you were put on notice, George. All right, any other changes? If not, does someone want to propose
I have a question though.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Since George is here, we want to speak on the road sign, should we move him actually to township committee reports instead of having it under unfinished items B, C?
Yeah, we could do that. We can't take action from that list, so if Sherry's looking for action, it would have to be
Okay.
on maybe both.
And there was no committee report, that's why I said I wanted to get
Okay.
it out here for action, because we've talked about it, and
Okay.
whatever you guys think is reasonable. I don't,
Okay. Any other questions? Is anyone interested in making a motion to approve the agenda with all of those changes?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with all of the listed amendments
second.
All right,
changes.
we have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion or questions? Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have an agenda. Is there any disclosures of conflict of interest tonight? All right, we'll keep on trucking then. That brings us to item 5, which is public statement 1. Anybody in the audience is encouraged to make their thoughts known for up to 3 minutes, and this is designated just for statements concerning current agenda items tonight, including those that we added. Those in the public that would like to talk about any other issue, there will be a second public statement time at the end of the meeting where you'll have an additional 3 minutes to talk about anything in the world you'd like to tell us about. I see we have our first public speaker. Go ahead, Judy.
Judy Gardy, Friends of Park Lake. I really want to express my appreciation to George and the road committee. After the last meeting, Ryan, you suggested that we go to a committee and have the request for beach ahead sign on Park Lake Road taken up and brought to you by a committee. I spoke to George the next day. The road committee met on Tuesday night and they did talk about it, and I just greatly appreciate the responsiveness on the part of the road committee, and your continuing to look into the issue. I'm concerned, like, when 69 is closed because of an accident, the cars just tear down there, nobody knows there's a beach there. I'm concerned with the road closure, Webster Road closure will have strange people who are not used to the road down there, and I just think it's a really important public safety issue, and I thank you for your continued work on this.
Thanks, Judy.
Good evening. Will Tyler White, Main Street, Bath. First, I want to thank the planner, Robler, for passing out these flyers personally, hand delivering them to all the people on Main Street. And he took a lot of time to explain it to the residents and business owners. That's under the items for action 14B in your road committee contracts. It shows only $160,000 budgeted to do these repairs. And on this sheet, you'll see some are listed as possible and some are being improved, but it's kind of a patchwork. So when the board dissolved the DDA in early 2021, it set aside $275,000. So there's only 160 listed there. I'm not sure where the rest of it goes, but I would suggest that entire $275,000 should be allocated so we can do a proper job and not make it look kind of haphazard. It doesn't make sense to put in new sidewalks for some houses and not others. It not only looks bad, but it's not fair to everybody. Some sidewalks are being replaced in front of homes that have been vacant for 10 years or a red tagged house. Part of my sidewalk is scheduled to be replaced, but not all of it. My neighbor on one side is getting some, my neighbor on the other side. It doesn't make sense. Do 30 feet here, skip 20 feet, do another 30 feet. It should all be the same so it looks uniform. Otherwise, I don't see the point in doing it. They should all be replaced in a uniform, consistent manner and up to code so it doesn't flood every time it rains. It's one of the problems with those sidewalks. Some of them are below the road level. So you got to bring them up to the code so that it doesn't flood all the time, and in the winter get covered with ice. Half-inch thick ice I'm talking about. So if you don't do these sidewalks right and correctly and up to grade, somebody wants to put in a driveway, like me, for example, I'll have to rip up that new concrete and bring it up to code. So you should, I think it would be a good idea to make sure that it's all done correctly and uniformly. Do the whole block. Don't do house here, part of that house, another house. it won't look good. You're gonna spend the money, none of those, or hardly any of those sidewalks have had any thing done in 50 years, except a little bit back in front of the park there where they erected a year or two ago. Anyway, I think it should also be coordinated with the Safe Routes to Schools project, with this putting in new sidewalks. I have not yet seen a map that shows the two projects together and how they coordinate, so that might be helpful. Anyway, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. White. Is there anyone else in the audience who'd like to address the board?
George Baker, I can't speak on behalf of the road committee, but I was at the road committee meeting, and they did bring up, we did add the beach sign to the agenda to discussion. Discussion was had on that sign and another sign in the township that'll be brought before you guys. And I met with some of the powers to be, and someone wiser than myself suggested that maybe the board might want the police and county input before making your decision. So I might request that you guys consider not passing the sign okay until you get all the information about that to you. So we'll probably have that maybe by next meeting, I would guess. So I'd ask about that. Since the sidewalks are brought up, there is a map, I'm sure, with the connecting stuff. And it's from what I understand, talking with the planner and being on the road committee, that stuff is prioritized. We do have $160,000 in the budget for that, but it's prioritized via the grant and other things. So that's why it's the way it is. We don't know how far the money will go, until we get there. So I just wanted to address that. And I might ask that you do okay the funding for the gravel projects and for the culvert. We have a paving project that you guys okayed for Hunter Road, and that culvert is showing beginning signs of wear. And to be proactive and not tearing up a new road. I don't think, from what I understand, it's not gonna go bad right away, but it seems we're gonna have the road tore up, and also the drain commission is gonna be in the area doing work on that same culvert area, that same drain area. So, we just thought we'd bring it before the board and have that project taken care of, being proactive instead of reactive on that. Thank you all.
Thanks, George. We'll probably have you come back up when we talk about the signage. Anyone else like to address the board? All right. Thank you. Next, we have item number 6, items from county, state, federal, and other agencies. We've got our favorite sewer guy, Director Brad Gursky, here to talk about the SCUMA budget for 2025. Welcome.
Thank you, trustees. Thank you for your time tonight. I'll be brief, but try to encompass all the information that I can, but I'm happy to answer any questions if you've had a chance to look into it. The 2025 budget is what I'm calling a transitional budget. That's because we're currently still under our expansion project and will be through a majority of 25. Time delays continue to kind of creep in. The equipment says it's going to be here in July, and that gets pushed back to October, and so on and so forth. So we don't have a real good comfort level of ultimately when this project will be wrapped up, which then in turn has consequences on the budget, as we still sit kind of in between the old and the new. So we won't realize our full potential savings with the new efficiencies gained from the project, probably till mid-25, I'm predicting. So we still have to have those operational coverages inside the 25 budget. We'll likely see some reductions, hopefully in the utility end of the spectrum and chemical cost coming into the 26 budget. But 25, we still had to realize the full impacts, knowing that there's still a lot of unknowns. With that said, we were fortunate enough to, in SCUMA operations related to the actual plant operations, we only have a 0.5% of an increase. That's largely due to some folks retiring, new folks coming in at entry levels and beginning that process. That was kind of the big picture savings that we've seen. That's just how it happened to work out time-wise. But it hit pretty well, as we're also seeing the escalators of the bond payments creep up. We're at full impact of the bond payments in '25, predicted bond payments, that is. We won't really rationalize the full accrual impacts until the state does their audit, which will happen 6 to 8 months after we actually close the project out, which will be mid-25. This is our best guess at a worst-case scenario, and those costs associated with Bath is $232,000 for '25. That's 26% of the overall bond payment. If you have the budget in front of you, you'll see that on page 7. I'm sorry, 234 for bond payment for '25. That again is Bath's entire portion. We are starting to see some plateauing of the utility costs associated with chemical usage. Once the project's complete, we'll be eliminating 2 out of 3 chemicals used in our process. So we'll have some stability moving forward, as we'll still be utilizing only 1 chemical for our entire process. Some other big ticket savings that we'll be seeing coming into '26. We did partner with a power company that will be doing on-site power generation, heat and power generation, utilizing our methane gas produced. Currently, our methane gas, we utilize it to heat our buildings, but ultimately, we still have to burn off quite a bit of product. They're gonna take our product, clean it up, and produce electricity and heat. And so the goal is to be 100% sufficient on our own product and really come offline consumers' energy, which will be a right upfront savings of 10%. We still have to pay for the product, but it's much more stable as far as pricing goes. We'll have an 80% cost associated with gas that's produced. That's for the heat side. And ultimately, we have the potential to generate revenue associated with tipping fees. So we're looking at bringing in other products into our digestion program in partnership with this company to increase our production of gas, to ultimately possibly explore other avenues of revenue associated with renewable energy, whether that's through a RIN selling back to the pipeline or electricity back to the grid. But that'll be futures down the road. But I mean, overall goal is to try to get about $100,000 in additional revenue out of this. That's my personal goal. The board has supported this project. It is no cost to the SCUMA membership. This is 100% cost is burdened by the partnership in the company associated with a 10-year agreement. So they're putting up the entire capital with the hopes of making it work. So no real risk to SCUMA associated with that. So we're looking forward to that project, hope to stabilize some of our future costs continuing on as everything continues to increase in cost. We try to be creative in ways to stabilize that moving forward for the municipalities. Our MERS membership, all defined benefits are closed, have been for at least 6 years. We've plateaued in our repayment of that schedule. Of course, it is impacted by the markets. You guys probably understand that well by now. I know you're diving into your system as well. But we've plateaued and it's starting to kind of come down that mountain. We're sitting at just over 80% funded. I'm assuming we'll get some changes here. We should be seeing our actuarials for 22 here any day. Sorry, 23 any day. So hopefully we continue to gain. I think there was 11% return last month or last year. So we should really continue reducing our costs associated with that defined benefit. But we do continue to pay more and extra to those defined benefits to keep ahead of the game, as it seems to be a moving target many of the times as MERS continues to kind of adjust for the economic times. I think I've hit on all the big ticket items. I'm happy to address any comments, questions, concerns associated with the budget.
On page 7 or slide 7,
Yeah.
whatever it is, you've got the code and you've got the amount for 2025, and then you have the percent, what is that a percent of?
Sure. So, say the 102, that 102 account is your collection account. So the cost that you pay 100% to for us to operate and maintain your collection system, your pipes, your lift stations, et cetera. So that's 100% Bass individual account. That fluctuates based on what we see out there, what the plan is, working with the superintendent, understanding, hey, this is the work that needs to be done, to keep things moving forward. Obviously, this will be greatly impacted by the Chandler Road project, moving forward, so there'll be some reductions in that moving forward, it'd be great. The 105 account is your shared account associated with, DeWitt Township, so that's a shared asset of two of the largest stations that we manage, Station 501 and 504. Them are both located in, DeWitt Township, and ultimately, that's a 3-year rolling average, so every 3 years, we kinda average that, we average it out, and then that percentage changed. Bath is continually to increase, you guys are growing a little faster than everybody else associated with what plumbing goes to those fixtures. The 200 account, that's the ownership piece, so that's what Bath owns of our actual facility. The 16.7273%, that's what Bath owns in our capacity, which will be 6 million gallons. So 6 million gallons, Bath owns 16.7273%. That's a static number, it never changes unless you choose to purchase capacity from one of the other members, which I believe Bath has done at one prior time. And the 201 account, the 29.09, that is the process, so that's again a 3-year rolling average, and that's a shared capacity number based on what flow is being contributed to the plant as an overall average.
So it's a percentage of the total SCUMA budget for those line items?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, long way around to get that answer.
No, that was very helpful, thank you. Other questions? Karen, I see our part is expectedly going up, as it has every year. Are we still waiting on the sewer rate study to move rates? What's the plan there?
So at this time, yes, we need to circle back around with Baker Tilly on the rate study. As well, we have a large amount of money invested that the treasurer has been doing very well on interest with. And as well, you will have a request before you. We have leftover money from last year's budget that we'll need to determine what to do with that. My recommendation at this time will be to leave it with SCUMA to go towards our paying down our obligations there.
What's taking Baker Tilly so long?
It's been a process between back and forth of information needed, providing that information, and then needing additional information. So it's an informational circle. They continue to need things from us that we're providing and just getting the calculations done in a timely manner.
Do they have an expected end date?
I don't have one at this time, but Jennifer and I Treasurer Wilson and I can circle back with them and work on that.
Seems like it would be helpful as you build out next year's budget to be able to respond to these increases so that we're not dipping into that, because I know you've got plans for some of that money out here.
Yeah, agreed.
Al?
Yeah, how much capacity are we not using?
That changes every year, but I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm gonna roundabout numbers.
Yeah.
If my memory serves me correct, once a year I present this to our board, but right now, I think the last recall was Bath had about 70,000 gallons in capacity. That's at the old system. Going to the new plant at 6 MGD, which will be at the end of completion of construction, you'll go back up. It was around 250,000 gallons, give or take. You'll have 250,000 gallons more you'll have at the completion of the expansion.
Is that total capacity or unused capacity?
Unused.
Okay, well,
So really, with this project, Bath historically claws back everything it's used up in the last 20 years. And that's a good thing. I mean, everybody received the benefit from doing the project we did. And it was relatively cost-effective doing it the way we did it. So we're happy to really utilize that process moving forward. And if I can, just kind of going back to the budget and the payments on page 7, the big increases for 24 and 25, that's when we started to see impacts of bond payments. maintenance. That's the first time we've had that since everything was paid for back in the 80s. So we've had to move that target. The good news is we overshot. We were more conservative in 24 because the project was supposed to start on X date. It did not start on X date. It was delayed, which ultimately was beneficial because the interest rates went up. We had the money invested. It's really been beneficial. So going back to your question, Ryan, there's some additional monies in Bath's project reserves that you are currently funding that you'll help smooth that out while the township works through its rate.
That's good news, thank you.
Yep.
Questions from anyone else? And we're not taking action on this tonight, but this will come back to us for action?
Correct.
Okay, in 2 weeks? Great. Will we see you again in 2 weeks?
2 weeks, I'll likely be at another municipality unless there's something I absolutely need to be here for. I can push that other one, but it's the Skooma Budget Roadshow, and every Monday I
get
am
'em
tied
once.
up, unfortunately, to
We get 'em
get
once.
ahead of our schedule.
Well, I think we own 16.72% of
You do.
you. All right, well, we'll make do.
Okay. But no, if you have any questions, and it's obviously something I have to be here for, if you can get that information to Karen, I can move the other ones around. That's not too big of an issue as long as it's not the night before. Usually that doesn't work out so well, you can appreciate that, but I'd be happy to be here for anything else or anything in between.
Well, we know how to reach you in between if we've got any other
Yep.
questions. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, and for those who are watching at home, the SCUMA proposed budget is available on our Documents on Demand site, along with our agenda, 2 separate documents that you can download for tonight's meeting. That brings us to item number 7, which is the consent agenda. We've only got minutes of the Planning Commission meeting of May 14th in our consent agenda. Is anyone interested in moving a motion forward?
I'll make a motion to accept the consent agenda as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? No, there's no discussion. It's a consent agenda,
Yeah.
so we're just gonna keep trucking. We're gonna do a voice vote here. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. That brings us to approval of minutes of our meeting, Board of Trustees meeting, May 20th, 2024. How are you all feeling about that?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the Board of Trustee meeting from May 20th, 2024 as submitted.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion on the minutes of May 20th? Hearing none, we'll take a voice vote. All those in favor of approval of the minutes of the Board of Trustees meeting of May 20th, 2024, say aye.
Aye.
Is there anyone opposed? All right, motion carries as well. That brings us to our approval of vouchers, item number 9. How do you all want to handle that tonight?
I'll make a motion to approve the vouchers as submitted.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? All right, we're gonna do a roll call vote for this one.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Ms. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Thank you.
Item 10 is our treasurer's report. Our next quarterly investment report will be next month in July. No committee reports tonight, number 11. Number 12, Township Committee reports. We've got our Police Chief, Chief Smith, here to talk about Police Department staffing. Welcome, Chief.
Thank you. Thank you for having me tonight. I just wanted to kind of give you the staffing report, agency update where we're at. As you know, staffing for police departments are at like an all-time low, and Bath is not in this alone. Every agency around us literally is looking to hire. When the staffing crisis hit, I think we were able to obtain some good talent out there, but that has since dried up. Most people aren't moving around anymore. They're settled where they're gonna be. So Currently, we have funding for 9 road patrol officers, however, we have 5 working the road. And probably sounds familiar, because that's what we had 6 months ago, but we have another person on injury, and we did hire one in the interim, but we're still back to 5. And I kind of give you an update. We have 2 new officers in training, called the Field Training Officer Program. Usually it's about a 12-week program. We're struggling with that because we didn't have enough field training officers, because one of the ones that got hurt was a field training officer, so we had to wait for a school. We have another one that we're gonna sponsor in upcoming police academy in August, but he won't be, the graduation for that isn't until December. So he won't be ready for the road probably February of '25. And that would give us right back to our 9 staffing for the road patrol. I'm just gonna run through a couple of things here. Trace Calkins, who was hired last year as administrative assistant, is working out wonderfully. With her assistance, we're able to keep up with the ever-increasing demands of the FOIA requests and discovery requests from attorneys. We're also able to keep up with the increasing demands at the Clinton County courts, and the prosecuting attorney's offices went electronic on everything. And that's seems to be like a moving target. Once they settle on something, we seem to do a lot of changes right now happening. So with Teresa's help, we're able to keep up on that, because everything the officers do has to put in electronic form and encrypted and sent up to the counties. So Jonathan Wright, who is the last one that went through the 113th Mid-Michigan Police Academy, he graduated on May 3rd, and he is currently in the Field Training Officer Program. And we expect that to take approximately 10 or 12 weeks for him, so he'd be ready for a solo road patrol. We hired Hayden Wildfong, and he is currently, he's an officer with some experience, and he's currently in the Field Training Officer Program as well. And like I mentioned here, we have another officer that's on light duty right now for the past several months, and it looks like he's probably going to be on light duty well into the fall. So that's not helping. We did hire Jacob Belknap, who's scheduled to attend the 114th Mid-Michigan Police Academy on August 19th. He currently works for Sparrow Hospital as a private police there. So, and he's got 4 years prior Marine Corps experience, so I think he'll fit in well here. And because of all the short staffing, our overtime budget is definitely going to be in crisis. Not only every time we have 5 road patrols, and we have 2 sergeants, and a lieutenant and detective, and everybody's doing pretty much everything right now. Right down to the lieutenant and I going out there taking calls for service, because we just don't have the manpower. In a sense, every time a road patrol officer takes a vacation day, try to backfill it with either a detective or lieutenant or somebody that can actually take them calls for service, but it doesn't always work. And because of the short staffing and a lot of the, so like when Sergeant Mardigan became Lieutenant Mardigan, he could no longer do firearms, so then we had to send somebody to firearms training and so forth. When the officer on light duty got injured, we had to send somebody else, a field training officer, which is a week-long school. So all that, what I'm telling you is all that's creating a lot of overtime, although we've made a lot of changes over the last 12 months, definitely in the last few months, to limit any overtime that isn't, essential. My overtime budget isn't just for overtime, it covers the part-time officers as well, and we have 1 part-time officer and 1 reserve officer, so we've been utilizing both of them as much as we can. Anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
So we should see some savings in the salary line item, right, for your full-time folks,
Yes.
but a bump in the,
Yeah, the
Overtime.
overtime budget's definitely gonna be over.
yeah.
It's not just for overtime, but it's for the part-time officers as well, so.
So there's a small trade-off there.
Yeah, it's gonna be a swap.
Yeah. So are you thinking that you won't be back to full status until at least December? Like that would be the
February 20
earliest?
February 25, probably.
February?
Knock on wood if nothing changes, but it's a challenge for everybody right now.
Other questions?
I got a
Jack?
couple.
Sure.
So your Your staffing level is 9, is that correct?
I'm sorry.
Your staffing level
Funding
is
for road patrol is 9, yes.
for 9 road patrol?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that does not include your sergeants, your
It
lieutenant.
is not.
So what will that bring your total number up to in your department?
So you got 9 road patrol, 2 sergeants, lieutenant, chief, and detective, so 14 full-timers.
What do you think your biggest, what's your biggest challenge right now to staffing the road and paying your overtime?
It's in-
What's the biggest challenge for your staffing of your road patrol and your overtime? Because, I mean, overtime has always been a moving target, as has staffing. I mean, that's, for as long as I can remember ever being in place where staffing is always, everybody complains about that, it's always tough in overtime, but I don't see, at least from what I've understood coming back on the board right now, that there may be an increase in overtime, but I don't believe your overall budget has been in trouble at all.
I don't foresee that, no. Certainly the overtime, I think looking years ahead, we might want to adjust that.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble hearing you.
I said, no, the overall budget, I don't believe will be a problem. It's the overtime budget is definitely going to be used up and, and probably in the next couple of months. To answer your question, what is their biggest challenge? I think people are getting burned out. They're getting tired of working a lot of overtime.
And is the overtime due to trying to keep minimum staffing?
Not at all. We don't have any minimum staffing in the collective bargaining agreements. Unofficially, we do Friday and Saturday, we keep 2 officers on for the afternoon night shift. So that are the only 2 days we try to keep 2 people on, but other than that, a lot of times we're running at a minimum, just 1 person on. Because some of them people have training off, officers that are getting trained with them, so you can't really count that as 2 officers, but.
So, I got like several thoughts going on, I'm trying to figure out which direction I want to go into. Is it difficult for you to maintain 2 officers on per shift right now?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Because of the overtime?
Well, we only have 5 out of 9 right now, so it takes 4 to run a 24/7 shift. So the 5th one is just, it's a hit and miss here and there, so we have a 1 night shift with 2 guys on.
I'm sorry?
So we have 1 night shift currently with 2 guys on. We just don't have, the others aren't out of training yet, so there's just not the numbers there. Sergeant will cover from 2 PM to 2 AM, so you have 2 guys on at that point, but after 2 AM, there is not. So we're gonna get there. I mean, in the next 3 months, we'll have 2 more on the road.
How's that working? And I guess I kind of need to be explained because things change all the time, but, so for your comp time and overtime, how does that work? What's your policy on that? Like, how much comp time they can build, how much overtime before they have to take comp, those 2 things, I know.
Right now, I believe the CBA calls for 80 hours on the cap for comp time. They can't accumulate more than 80 hours of comp time. Anything above that is pay. There are some things in the CBA, like firearms training, which they're not allowed to get overtime for. It's strictly comp time.
Does that impact your overtime budget significantly?
Does what, the firearms training, or?
No, the way those 2 things work together.
It's kind of hard to explain. I mean, I'm not trying to dodge the question, but when you pay comp time, you have legacy costs involved with that. If you take a 12-hour shift as comp time, that's really 18 hours, I gotta pay.
I'm saying this so that everybody listening can understand it better.
So
I understand it fairly well, but I kind of want to
Okay, I
go
see
through
where
it
you're-
again.
So what I've done in the past is I've limited the comp time. I've really encouraged the guys just to take the pay as overtime, because you're one and done at that point. When you start accumulating comp time and you're short-staffed, these people want to take it off. And, right now, they struggle with trying to give more than 1 person a day off at a time. So we went to just paying overtime, just because there's no legacy cost involved. Now, when we get back up to staffing, I'm guessing we're gonna turn that around the other way.
Chief, can you explain what you mean by comp time?
So, I'm sorry, not everybody gets comp. So if you work, say, if you come in tomorrow and it's your day off and you're working a 12-hour shift on the road, you can take that as pay, 12 hours overtime pay, or you can bank it in your comp bank, meaning you get 18 hours of comp that you can take off at any time later. Or they also have it in their CBA where they can sell a minimum amount of that once a year as well.
But it's capped at 80.
It's capped at 80.
Okay.
So I just want to clarify that I don't know if this is the way you're saying it, or this is the way you mean it, or both. They can't really take it at any time they want, can they?
Not now they can't, no. And that's why I really went away from that, encouraging, because, you know, the last chief, and that was a different time then, we weren't having this crisis. The last chief encouraged everybody to keep it in budget, to take comp time, because we had people that could work your shift if you wanted to take it off. We don't have that luxury right now. I mean, people are getting tired.
So I'm sure you've considered this, but what's your opinion about moving things around as if, for example, just assigning the lieutenant back to road patrol? I mean, not just when it's needed, but just assigning them back to road patrol. Or maybe partially assigning your detective back to road patrol to cover these slots and keep overtime down.
So we are currently doing that. I mean, like tomorrow, you see the detective, he'll be out working in uniform tomorrow, because that's what we have to do. You know, obviously, if there's priority cases, some felony cases he's got to work on, but we were doing that currently, just to keep shifts. The lieutenant and I have both been taking calls for service during the day when we're here, and backing the officer up, because there's a single officer out there. So to put it like a lieutenant back in the road patrol position, or in the patrol position full-time, I don't think we can do it. So much as his workload right now is with the new cameras, everything's electronic, going to boards, just scheduling. I mean,
Okay.
so we're all wearing, you know, different hats.
Sure, no, I understand. Again,
So, yeah.
some of these questions I have an inkling about what the answer might be, but I think it's important for people watching, for anybody at this board to understand it. Also, what impact has this had in terms of other agencies having to support your agency?
Well, when you bring that up, I want to say DeWitt Township probably backs us up daily, if not more than once a day. Same with the sheriff's department. You know, fortunately, we have a great working relationship with our neighbors, but, you know, we're constantly calling on them because we're running at a minimal, you know, we're running a one-person staff here. So I think it's a burden on them. They don't put it that way, but it certainly is when we're calling on them at least once a day to back us up.
Have you had any pushback from that?
You mean from the other chiefs of their departments?
From the other agencies?
Not really. I mean, we're all in this together. I think we understand that, but, you know, I wouldn't want it to continue, you know, into perpetuity.
Part of the reason I'm asking is because it's a little bit lopsided. I mean, if you only have one officer on, probably you're not sending your officers out to help them very frequently, but they're sending their officers out
We
to
are,
help us.
we are, not as frequently as they are helping us, for sure, because they have, obviously, you know, more numbers than we do. And specifically, I'm talking about, like, DeWitt Township is probably our number one that backs us up, because we're neighbors. So, and we certainly back them up whenever it's needed, but, you know, we're running one car, maybe two.
Is the pay equal in our different townships and places around? They're all roughly the same?
Benton County's pretty close, yeah. That's been our basis. When I was union for the either road patrol or supervisors, that's what our comparables are, is everybody around us, so. It's
It's the same.
Is it time we raise it? Get more guys and we can't run short. And we're talking about bringing lots more people in and more businesses and whatever, and we can't be, to me, short on our cops because it's important to
I think
just.
the
But that's
issue
the
is, though, there
problem.
just aren't the people to be gotten.
Well, that too,
There's just no pool
but
to
they
draw
will.
from, like Gary said, there's no pool to draw from.
Right, but they would have a tendency to go to the highest paid place.
Well, you would think so, but there's a lot more.
More, yeah, there's
formula
lots to
that.
it.
There is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
Job satisfaction is a lot, and to be honest with you, we've had a help wanted thing on our website for a year now, and the last round of interviews we did maybe 6 months ago, 5 months ago, we did several uncertified police officers, which just means people that haven't went through a police academy yet, but are interested. And we did that on the potential that we may never get another, more applicants, and lo and behold, we did not. We didn't get
Right.
one. So, it's just, it's a different day and age, and I think we need to start establishing a pipeline of how we're gonna get new recruits in. And so, we are working on that, and we used to have a cadet program with Jack, I know you're familiar with it. And I was hired on that, and I believe Mike was hired on that as well. But all that takes time and manpower to manage that. Right now, we don't have that.
Brian, could I ask one more budget
Please.
question? I'll switch up just a little bit. So Karen, I'll ask you, is this police overtime budget thing, I mean, while it may go over their budgeted amount, is it a burden on the overall budget of the township right now?
The police department in general?
The police department overtime budget?
No, I think it will balance itself out with, the salaried, hours that we projected for this year.
So I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but basically, as the administrative head of the department, just move forward with covering the shifts the best you can.
Yes.
Reasonably, and expect that you're gonna be paying overtime until you get this resolved, is that?
I believe that's correct.
Okay. I have nothing further.
Other questions? Can you remind us, Chief, of how much your department has grown over the last 5 years?
You mean as far as numbers or?
Numbers, yeah.
Numbers of officers?
Yeah, approved slots, I guess, in this case, we're talking about.
Last 5 years. Well, you approved the 9th road patrol position last year, and you also approved the administrative assistant, Teresa Calkins, which we're thankful before, because I don't know how we'd keep our head above water right now with everything going on. One before that, I don't recall when the last time we added an additional staff for the police department prior to that.
So at least 2 people in the last 5 years.
Yeah, one admin and one officer, yes.
Yeah. Does that sound right, Superintendent? Right. And all that during a time when we did not have an increase to the police and fire village.
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah. We have a plan moving forward, it's just, it's a moving target.
Slow process. Okay.
I went to the Mackinac Policy Conference last week, and the chief of the Detroit Police Force gave a presentation with Mayor Duggan about this mental health core sort of that he's got set up, and it was a phenomenal presentation. We saw body cameras of how folks were de-escalated without force. It really made me think if that's something that we should start thinking about here, maybe not as a small department, but as a county. I'd love to talk to you about that more, you know, when we're fully staffed, when that makes sense. But it seemed like a very powerful way to go for police enforcement.
It's, and in July, I mean, I stressed a lot, some of this overtime is from training that we're required to give. In July, the certifying agents for police officers is putting out a whole new list of training that is going to be required to keep our certification every year, so we expect the hits to keep on coming.
Anything else, board members? Thanks for your leadership, Chief.
Thanks for having me.
That brings us in our agenda to item 13, unfinished business. We do not have any items for introduction or discussion tonight, but we do have 3 items for action. The first is an updated fee schedule from our planner. We'll invite him up to the lectern. We did talk about this at our last meeting, and I think the planner has some new information for us as well.
Yeah, thanks for that. So at the last meeting, we talked about some of the increases the planning department was suggesting to the township to make to the currently approved fee schedule. Just to recap again, these are just to keep our fees in line with what we're seeing in the marketplace and help cover our administrative costs and review costs as part of mostly the commercial reviews that we conduct in the department. Kind of the big point of conversation, I think, last time was the maximum for the escrow account. So we got with our legal counsel, they did some work for us to help us understand what is and isn't required by law. So as it turns out, a maximum escrow account on the fee schedule is not required by law. They provided a helpful table about the benefits of a maximum escrow amount and some of the drawbacks of a maximum escrow amount. It was largely, I think the table reflected the conversation that we had last time, which the benefits of not having a maximum would be, it could alleviate some of the pressure staff feel when we have to go to billing. The drawbacks are largely, having a maximum creates a sense of transparency to the developers and maybe could signal to developers like a friendliness and being open to development. I think though, those negatives could be mitigated by being transparent with our developers from the get-go. One nice thing that we do in Bath Township, since my time here, I think has been helpful, I don't know, Karen, if you agree though, is the, pre-application meetings we have with the developers before they've invested any money in the process, and so the stakes are low for them. We typically will ask that they, or now we require, that they come in and meet with us before they've submitted an application. We talk about the whole process in its entirety, we talk about what their fees that they would incur, we talk about what type of review we do here in Bath Township, just because every municipality is quite different. I mean, we require a photometric plan, that's something that more communities are starting to require, but many communities do not. So we just like to be transparent. That would be the meeting where we would say, hey, we've recently made changes to our escrow, you're probably used to having a maximum, we don't anymore. We'll still be taking payments in installment of $2,000, and at any time, if you wanna see how those bills are being paid out or what's going on with your account, please just reach out, we're more than happy to just send you the information, but there's no secrets here. So, with that all being said, we discussed this, at the planning commission at our last meeting, as was requested. The planning commission basically said, hey, this is at the board, if the escrow isn't legally required to have a maximum for, we're in support of that maximum being removed. So I just wanted to bring all that information to you tonight. That seems like that was the consensus of the planning commission. Kate, was that your sense as well?
Yeah, that was the sense
Trustee
that I got.
Hagerman, sorry.
Yes, that was the sense that I got.
So, yeah, with that being said, I guess the department's recommendation is to, approve the fee schedule as presented with the amendment that the maximum amount for the escrow, be removed.
Thank you, Miles, and thanks for the quick turnaround and legwork on that issue. I really appreciate that. That makes the most sense to me as well, since ultimately, none of this is gonna cost more or less, right? It's not that folks are not gonna have to pay what they have to pay for or anything else. It does seem somewhat moot. Questions, comments, motions from the board?
I'll make a motion to accept the fee schedule as submitted, but removing the maximum of the $10,000 on escrow.
In each of the areas?
Yeah, in each of the areas, rezoning, special use permit, I'm forgetting around site plan review. Yeah,
That's what I have.
to remove the maximum on those 3 areas.
Great, we have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second, is there any other discussion?
There is one more maximum listed.
Oh, did I miss that?
In the office, commercial, and industrial space under your site plan review, top of the second page. That's a maximum of 1,500.
Oh,
So I
yes.
might suggest perhaps that the motion could be to adopt the fee schedule as presented with removal of all
All
maximums.
maximums.
That way there's no dollar specific.
I agree.
Is that okay?
Yep.
Who said? You did.
Kate
Is that okay?
Yep, I missed that one.
Great, so we're all set on the motion then?
Yes,
There's actually 4 instances, but we're just gonna say all of them.
all of them, all the maximums.
All right, the clerk and I agree we should take a roll call vote on this one.
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Ms. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes,
Mr. Phillips?
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion carries. That brings us to items for action, small b, the resolution to amend the resolution of August 20th, 2019 approving the establishment of a property assessed clean energy or PACE program. We heard a presentation from one of their staff members 2 weeks ago. This is functionally just updating things that would be in response to laws that have changed. No dramatic changes here. Superintendent, do you want to add anything to that?
I don't. I'm comfortable with what you said. I think it's recommended. We do have 2 facilities, I believe, that are using this program at this time, and I think there's incentive for others to use it when the market improves.
Great. Is there a discussion or a motion to be made?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution 2024-05 as presented.
I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Does everyone understand the motion made? All right, since it's a resolution, we're gonna do another roll call vote.
Ms. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes?
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Thank you.
That motion passes, the resolution stands. That brings us to large B, small c, Park Lake Beach signs. Sherry, do you want to get started? Do you want us to invite George up? What's your pleasure?
Let's do both. I like the suggestion of talking to our police and fire and get their input, but we can proceed with it. I would like to get it rolling, because it's been talked about for quite some time. And I think it's, especially with the new traffic things happening, I think it's important to protect our kids that are, the beach is so close to the road there, it's scary. One sign on each side at least, or whatever they recommend.
George, you want to join us at the lectern? Go ahead.
I just have a question, though. I drove Park Lake this weekend again. There's already signs that say pedestrians ahead, so I'm just concerned that we shouldn't put more signs down there, because there's already signs down there that say it. And personally, I don't think we're allowed to put signs.
We asked the
Do you ask the county road commission?
No, I think we need to.
Oh,
I think
okay.
that's the procedure, is what I understand.
Okay.
From the road committee, how did your conversation go, and what is your recommendation?
A motion was made and they passed it to bring it to the board. And then, after talking with the road committee, they requested that it be brought to committee and then it be brought to the board and through the police and then to them. They ultimately make the decision, whether they'll do it or not. But long story short, they requested that it be, these 2 specific signs be brought through this process. So that's what we've done.
So the motion was to recommend that we do have 2 new signs for, that says something to the effect of beach ahead?
Correct, and
Okay.
to attach them to the already current signs there if possible.
The ones that say pedestrians ahead?
Yes, if
Okay.
I'm not mistaken, and anybody that was at that meeting can jump in and correct me if I'm off base. But, looking at Mr. Phillips.
I think it's,
But long story short, that's, after that, it gets brought to you. And then, if you guys okay it, then it gets taken to the county, and if the police are okay with it. Now, I can't speak for the police or the chief, but I can speak to a conversation that we had that, whatever the case, their duty is to uphold the law, and that's what they'll do. Myself, I'm not for or against it, and I can't speak for them either, but, the county definitely does not want to put a bunch more signage up, be it a no right turn sign, a one-way sign on Eunice Street, or the beach signs, unless it's directly connected to safety issues, which, I tried to make the argument to allude to that, but I just requested them to either come to a meeting or write a letter. They said they would write a letter in communication so that you guys had some documentation from them.
Is it possible to combine the 2 proposed signs into a single sign? Something that would say like beach, pedestrians ahead, instead of having 2 signs that folks have to navigate?
There again, I don't know what all the restrictions are on signs. It's its own entity, engineers and people that make, that's their job. That's what they do. So that's what they determine, whether a sign goes up also by all that information through engineering and traffic and other issues that they have to discuss within their own county commission.
So do you think our next step is to take action tonight, or do we need to talk to folks before we take action?
If you take action tonight, then it'll go, a discussion will be made with the police department, and a discussion will be made with the county, and they'll determine it from there. Or you can have a discussion with more information from the county specifically.
Superintendent, do you have a recommendation on how we, is it cart and horse or horse and cart?
I think with the existing signs, I don't know if there's room for removing the pedestrians ahead sign and replacing it with a beach ahead sign. And that's why I think we probably should wait for feedback from the county. I think it will let us know what they're willing to do and what they're not willing to do. And I think it's important to continue to be good partners with them. I think they're working to make the corridor safer. I do think that they understand it's a safety concern, but I do ultimately at the end think that they have the ultimate authority over it, and I would rather work with them and not against them.
Do you need action from us tonight to empower you to have those conversations? Is it the road committee? Like, what's the
I
pathway
think
forward?
that George and I could have those conversations, Mr. Baker and I could have those conversations with the road commission to understand what they're willing to do and not do, and bring that back to you.
How's
I'm
that?
comfortable with no action, but
And then eventually you're gonna bring it back to
Correct.
us, so there would be some action. How do folks feel about that? Al?
Oh, I happened to be on in that meeting, so, I brought the motion up to bring it to this board. I can't see any reason why it couldn't say, watch for pedestrians, beach ahead, on the same sign without putting a bunch of other signs. That would let them know both that they gotta watch for these kids, because they just do not understand that there's cars going behind them. They're running to the beach and they're running around the car to get a drink, and they have no, I would like to see us maybe consider putting stripes on the road in the parking area that would be on like a 45-degree angle, so they wouldn't have to back straight out. They would back on an angle, which would make it easier to get out on the road.
Is that something that we can do in-house, Karen, since that's like our property, that's not really road commission?
I believe that we could look at that issue and have DPW would probably be able to do that.
Okay. Oh, go ahead, sorry, George.
And I suggest that you still talk to the county about that, because they would be able to give you insight for that. And they did say they would write a letter and get it to us before the next meeting. Because when you're referring to like the children out on the signs, when we had our discussions, they did talk about that. Maybe it's not a signage issue, maybe it's a parking issue, maybe it's the parking lot's not big enough for the cars, maybe it's not a signage issue. So they will reference that information in their letter. And they are putting stripes, the two pedestrian crossings are already in the works. So they're already putting signages up in that area as it is, so.
Would a fence be a possibility to kind of contain, I mean, it is such a small
Yeah,
area.
he's referring to like when you go around the lake, and we may have had this conversation where you're going around the lake and you're heading east, and, you know, kids and people are out by the road
right.
at their trunks and whatnot, and you slow right down. Well, some slow right down. And a fence right there, you know, you really can't put a fence up where they're parking.
Jack?
So I want to try and, I was at the meeting, I want to try and understand this a little bit better, George. It seemed to me like the road commission in some preliminary conversations about this wanted to bring it before this board as an action item to say do we want the road commission to take this under consideration and decide whether or not they want to do this, and to give them specific requests, such as maybe we want one sign to say both things? Is that what you're understanding, or am I off
Yes,
base on that?
the original request was that it go through committee or through, and then end up in your lap, and then you decide whether you want them to take action on it or not. They won't guarantee that they'll take action on it, but like Karen alluded to earlier, our superintendent, that they really want to work with us. The police department, you know, people that work and serve in our community are amazing, how they want to, you know, help our community be better. But they want to do it to the best of their ability and the correct way with it, you know, not having too many signs, not, you know, over signage, under signage. So that's why I asked for you to just hold off till you read the letter from the county. Now, if you want to take action, it's, you know, it'll still go to the county. So it really is
So
your decision.
they're gonna submit their either approval or not, whether we move it to them? Will we make an action to put it in their lap, so to speak?
It'll also have to be, you know, the police will have to touch it too. And I don't know if Gary would like to speak to that at all, or our chief. But, yeah, I would suggest that.
It sounds like there's some consensus to waiting a beat, 2 weeks.
Yeah,
For
that's,
some
I
information
outright
from the
said that.
county.
I outright said that, you know,
Okay.
your decision's gonna be what it is. But to influence your decision, you might wanna have the county information.
That's
To
good.
why they say no signs, why they don't wanna put signs. And it does sound like they don't wanna put signs up. And I have said that in the meetings, I've said that in public, I've said that to Judy, that, you know, the county has said to me in many a meeting that, and off the record, that they have signs up everywhere. And sometimes signs don't really, you know, people run stop signs, people run, you know. So there's a reason why they do it, and that letter might allude to, better to why they don't.
Is there such a thing that if there are too many signs that people pay less attention? Which feels counterintuitive, but also kind of makes sense. They just block them all out.
Yeah, I
feel
can
like I've
imagine
heard
for
this
like,
before at
especially
planning
young
commission or
drivers,
somewhere.
it's too much to take in while they're trying
Right.
to.
I mean, we have a playground sign that when you're coming into Wishwasher Park, there's the teeter-totter, you know, on the hill. And unless, you know, you pay attention, you just drive right by it.
It's 15 miles an hour.
Yeah, that's a suggested,
It just sounds to me a little bit like our decision is actually gonna be a moot point if the county says we're not putting the signs up, we don't care what you think.
they did say that they would, you know, consider it, and that if this board wants it, then it'll go before them and they'll review it.
Okay.
I like the suggestion of Al's recommendation of one sign that communicates both pieces of information.
Yeah, so maybe Karen and George, in your conversations, that could be one of the options to see if they're
aware of it
more.
already.
Okay. Sherry, does that
Sounds
suffice?
perfect.
We'll ask for this to be brought back to us in 2 weeks?
Yep.
Does that give you folks enough time to have the conversations you need and get the letters?
Yes.
Yeah,
Agreed.
Sounds perfect.
all right. So it sounds like no action now, but it'll be on the next agenda. Great, thanks for poking at that.
We have one other one that was brought to us, and that was Eunice Street, no right turn. And I think we gotta consider that, because what everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, an awful lot of them are not going to the light and turning. They're turning down Eunice Street, and when they turn down Eunice Street, it makes so much traffic on there.
Remind me where Eunice Street is?
The first street, this side of Oklamas Road.
Mark,
Marsh Road.
I'm
Oh,
sorry,
it's the
Marsh
little,
Road.
is it a dirt road?
Yeah,
By Meyer?
So it's
Right
a-
before the Meyer
right
driveway?
before the Myers.
It's off Coleman and it's
Okay.
off Saginaw. It runs from Coleman to Saginaw.
And people are just
north,
cutting
south.
through there
Instead of going to the light.
Because of the
Going to
MDOT reconfiguration of that whole corridor, people are cutting through there to avoid other
light.
traffic
But it's
patterns.
not illegal.
No, but it's creating a situation for the people that live on Eunice, that there are a lot more cars coming down that street than there have ever been.
We've surveyed that, and it's, I think I got the survey at home, but it was, since that new intersection was put in down there, it's more than tripled the amount of cars that are going down that road.
Does the county have that where they can give us that?
Well,
That they
that's
did
the
it?
same as this sign here. They don't want to put more signs out, but if we ask for it, they will consider it.
Well, it's only gonna get worse down there as we have more
That's the
development.
question.
They will address that in the letter also. It's already requested
Oh,
for
great.
them to address that. And
Okay.
we can provide you with the traffic study on that road if you'd like.
Okay.
All right, sounds good. Thanks for that discussion. That brings us to item 14, new business. We do have a couple of items for introduction and discussion, starting with the continuing disclosure undertaking agreement with Benzinski and Company. Treasurer and Superintendent, you have information on that.
Karen, you want to take this one?
Am
It's
I
the
not
contract.
seeing it in the packet?
You, no, it's in there. I think you might.
Oh, I
have
went
it.
past it, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Nope.
They're the company that helps
So
us with our
Benzinski and
bonds.
Company has assisted us with bonding for our sewer projects. There are informational disclosures that they need to make on our behalf, and this agreement would allow them to continue conducting that business on our behalf. I don't know where I lost it in my packet, I'm sorry. But it is, they've done our bonding for, since Treasurer Wisswasser was here, I think originally in
2013?
It might have even been before that.
Because I think that's in the contract. I think they actually have 2013 as the first one they helped us with.
Yeah, I think I saw that too.
Or maybe 2004?
Yeah, I thought it was
2004.
early 2000s. They've assisted with all of our bonding. So this just allows them to continue on our behalf, filing those disclosures and any notices that are required as part of our bonding.
Go ahead.
Has
Brenda.
anything changed in the wording or anything that you guys noticed?
No.
No, it's the same.
Yeah,
So this is a current agreement we have with them and we need to re-up it.
Correct.
correct.
Got it.
Now, is this for action?
Yes. Oh, wait, no.
No.
It will come back for action next time, I believe.
Correct.
Okay.
And this keeps us compliant.
Correct.
And Bedzinski is compliant, because if Bedzinski's is filing these on your behalf but doesn't have current authorization from you, they're actually breaching their own fiduciary responsibilities. So it keeps all parties on the same page, clear and connected.
Thank you.
Do you know how much we paid them last year?
I do not. I would have to look that up. But we refinanced as well, so
There was a little more last year.
there was
yeah.
more last year. The amount would have been more last year.
Here it says we agreed to $1,000 annually for the first 5 years,
Yeah, it didn't seem like a lot of money.
Yeah.
But if
No.
there's action, there might be more?
Yes.
Okay,
because they helped us refinance last year. There was more last year.
got it. All right, I think my brain has wrapped around this. How about the rest of you? Are you with me as well?
Yeah.
All right, if there's no other questions, we'll move on, knowing that we'll see this again in 2 weeks for action. I don't know why you guys aren't more fired up about this.
Move on.
This is
Because it was just
the real
discussion. Nobody
exciting
wants it.
work that we
I
get to
know.
do. All right,
cares about that?
we'll keep moving then. Item 14, new business, items for introduction, discussion, small b, dangerous structure hearing officer from our superintendent.
Thank you. So we, in the past, have had a dangerous structure hearing officer. We've been fortunate that we have not needed this officer in the last several years, at least since I've been the superintendent in 2019. We find ourselves in a predicament now where we have several properties that have been tagged as dangerous structures, and the people that own those properties have a right to a hearing if they so choose to dispute the tagging of their property, which leads me to believe that we may be in need of someone serving in that position since we haven't had somebody in some time. A person has been recommended to us from another community that does this for that community. And I believe that it would be in our best interest to be prepared should we have a contested dangerous structure.
Would this be, in your mind, a pay per hearing, or would this be a retainer that we would keep them on?
It's my understanding that it's a paid per hearing.
Okay. So in the past several years, we might not have paid anything, but
Correct.
coming up, we might have 2 or 3 hearings.
Correct.
If people choose to have hearings.
If people choose to dispute the tagging of their property as a dangerous structure, then it's possible that there would be a hearing.
Okay, sure.
Is that not something the fire department generally can, it's different?
It's actually part of the building and department and zoning. So it's
Okay.
different from the ordinance compliance
Okay.
officer or the fire marshal.
Okay.
Ryan,
Good question, thanks. Al?
how much does it normally run for a hearing?
It's my understanding that it's approximately about or less than $200.
Oh, okay.
And there is somebody that can do this for us?
Yes, we
Correct.
have an individual that's been recommended to us, and if we were interested in proceeding, which I strongly think we should, obtaining that information and then appointing that person as this dangerous structure
Sounds
official.
too easy.
So that's something that this body does, so you would bring that back to us
would.
with a contract?
Correct,
Okay.
yes.
Do you anticipate that in 2 weeks, or might that take longer?
No, I didn't anticipate that in the next couple of weeks.
Okay. Other questions from folks?
If there is no hearing, then what happens?
Then it proceeds to a situation where the owner is responsible for taking the building down. If they are unable to do that, the township generally takes those buildings down. At times, they've proceeded to court if there's an ongoing dispute. And I don't know that we've had any in the last, yeah. But generally, if the homeowner is unable to do it, we do it, and then it reverts to their taxes.
Good.
The few that I've had an experience with in my first term, it's usually like sick individuals or elderly individuals who just can't do it. So it's like a sort of a sad situation.
right.
But, you know,
It
they're
does need
dangerous
to be
structures
addressed.
that
It's a
kids or
dangerous
other folks
structure.
could get
Yeah.
into, so it's never a pleasant thing for sure. All right, well, we'll look forward to that in a couple weeks then.
Thank you.
That brings us to item 14, new business, large B, items for action. Do you just briefly want to share why we stripped the original item A tonight?
I do. Unfortunately, our K-9 officer, Iko, became in a state of health that it was detrimental to his quality of life. He was unfortunately euthanized this past weekend, and very sad for the officer, very sad for our police department. Officer Iko served us well for, I think, almost 9 years. 10? I'm sorry, my apologies, almost 10 years. And unfortunately, we lost him. There's been a tremendous amount of community support on Facebook, and I think everybody's saddened by this loss. And it's difficult, but we'll proceed. I would recommend that after some time passes, that we invite Officer Mike Lapham, who is the trainer and officer, family member, I can't think of any more ways to describe him, best friend and partner. We bring him here and honor him for his service along with Officer Iko.
Sounds lovely. And I imagine, Chief, if your recommendation is to have a new K-9 in the future, that'll be coming as well.
It would, yes.
Okay. Well, thank you for that update. So new item A is road committee contracts, and I will pitch it back to you, Superintendent.
Thank you. I'm glad that Mr. Baker is still here. The road committee met recently. They had approximately $115,000 that was unused in the road budget, and they were able to review and approve additional projects, which includes the culvert that George described earlier, as well as 5 new gravel projects that we were able to complete. That after the completion of all those projects, we still have almost $9,500, almost $9,600 for signs, should those come to fruition. But I would recommend that the board adopt these tonight, unless there are concerns or questions that you would like the road committee to address.
Thank you. Board, are there questions, thoughts about the contracts in front of us?
Right now, the county has found some extremely good gravel that they're very happy with, and the price was right. They are very happy to help us with these roads. I think I move that well, first is the culvert that's on Hunter Road. Just as you come off of Upton Road, they're redoing that water ditch that's through there. This culvert is in the road. What their suggestion is to change the culvert and then drive on it through the rest of the summer, pack it down, so that when we blacktop that road this fall, they're willing to wait till this fall to do it. We won't have a bump in the road.
I have seen lots of our community members with various concerns about road projects since we've announced this, a road here will be closed temporarily. There's a lot of concern that we're going to like fix a road and then in 6 months tear that fixed road up to do something different. Is there any fact to that? Are we doing that?
This is what we're doing here with the culvert.
Right, but we're not gonna then tear it up later
No, well, we're gonna put a new road over it. Yes.
on top of it.
Yeah, that would be the only reason that road would have anything on it would because that is the only culvert that is bad, that it covers that drain. And the county drain commission is redoing that ditch, or the culvert that goes through there for us. And then along with the drainage area from behind the houses.
I would offer to this board that our relationship with the Clinton County Road Commission is such a relationship that we are coordinating our efforts. The closure of Webster Road is to be able to fix the site distance. There's some adding of gravel and some leveling of gravel, which will require a temporary patch. And I think I discussed with this board earlier this year, in the last couple months, I can't remember the timeframe, that it was a bid letting issue about Webster Road, and it's not, because of norm fasteners, it's not anything other than the pace of the work that needs to be done. And Mr. Kessler is working with us. We approved paying some of the engineering fees. Clinton County is actually participating at, I think, a cost of approximately $80,000 to improve Webster Road. That work is what is going to be handled while it's shut from June 10th until, I believe, early July. And these are the things that are required in order for Webster Road, for us to get the best money, value, and safety for that road. And it has nothing to do with construction in the area, has nothing to do with anything, but it's the right thing to do because it has been unsafe. People turning from Drumheller have been unable to see because of the hill. And people from down below are coming up a hill to traffic situations that they're unable to see ahead of time. So the work that's gonna be done during that closure is necessary. I mean, we're talking about safety of roads. It's necessary for the safety of Webster Road.
But in general, we're not
No, we're
tearing
not.
up things we just put down.
No, we're not.
We're not wasting money.
No, we're
And we've
not.
got engineers who are designing all of this,
Correct.
right?
Yes.
I just want folks to understand that, I don't know where these rumors start, but that's not true.
Yeah,
just wanted to hear that
it's
from us.
unfortunate, it's difficult. I know that there is a great deal of construction in this area. I feel it myself when I try to get to appointments or meetings. 69 is down to one lane, 27 is down to one lane. It's very frustrating, but this is the only way that we can fix what is wrong so that people have good roads.
Yeah. Thank you.
Right.
Oh, go ahead, Al, I'm sorry.
When the committee was formed to study Webster Road, Consumer Power was there, the county was there, SCUMA was there. Anybody that had anything to do under that road or around the road was there to study it and make sure that it was taken care of before we did the road. So it is, we have done everything in our ability to try to keep from doing that. And that's the reason that it's, the study, I think they've been doing it for 2 years to make sure that this don't happen. Because it can't say that it won't. Something
Right.
might come up, like a sewer line blowing up, but they've taken all the precautions they could to take care of this.
Thanks, Al, and thanks to the road committee for their hard work on this. So tonight's contracts add up to, what, is it this 175 number?
No, I think approximately 100,000, there's 5 new gravel projects and the culvert project.
I see. These five
It was 115.
and the culvert. Got
So
it.
the culvert is on page 1. Yep, at the bottom, just before the total, for $15,836. And then on the second page, underneath recommended gravel projects, there are 5 projects there. At the bottom, that say updated 5/30 of 2024.
So it's just over 100,000.
24,365,
Correct.
24,365, 24,365. $6,174.25. And $11,019.75.
And this has all been budgeted for, this is within our current budget?
Correct, it's within our current
This
budget.
is our county money that we got for our roads
Okay.
this year.
All right, other questions about the contracts in front of us?
I move-
Just quickly, it's about $106,000.
Thank you.
I move we sign them, have Karen sign them, and send them back to the county.
I'll second that, Al.
So we have a motion to authorize the superintendent to sign the contracts and submit them to the county, and that's been seconded. Any other questions or thoughts on this issue before we vote? Seeing as these are contracts, we'll do another roll call vote.
Ms. Butler Challenger, yes. Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes.
Ms. Wilson?
Yes.
Mr. Phillips?
Yes,
Ms. Kellerman?
Yes.
Ms. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
Yes.
That motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up with our superintendent again is Board of Trustees meeting on July 1. And why don't you talk about the township offices on July 5 all in the
I
same?
will, they're combined in the same memo. I am surveying this board to understand, in the past, board members have had plans and we're gonna be out of town for the July 1st meeting. So I'm asking tonight if you would like to proceed with the meeting as scheduled, or if people are going to be out of town, I would recommend that you cancel that meeting on July 1st. In addition to that, the past several years, including when Superintendent Dan Wachicha was here, if the July 4th holiday fell towards the beginning of the week or the end of the week, the offices would be closed, and staff could take that with using their own paid time off. But our counterpart over in DeWitt has similarly done the same. They are closed that day as well. So I think it's a very light traffic holiday for the offices, and it's a benefit to the staff that are here to take that time off and not have to come back for one day of work and then go back somewhere.
Thank you. So I guess item 1 is, are folks out of town on July 1st? Shall we keep that meeting? Shall we cancel that meeting? We can also reschedule that meeting if that's necessary.
I'm gonna be out of town,
Okay,
but I'm nervous if we cancel it, maybe we should reschedule it, because I'm nervous about the Monday night meeting before the election in August.
that you would want to cancel that as well?
Or reschedule it to the following week.
Got
There's
it.
a lot that has to go on nowadays with the elections, and I won't be able to be in here if I'm doing election stuff.
That's a good point. I'm sorry, I hadn't considered that.
No, that's okay.
We talked
I'm
about it
not-
the other day.
yeah, I'm not saying cancel, but maybe
Move it,
reschedule it to
yeah.
the next week is what,
Because the very first one in August is the day before the election.
and
this
then
is
do it
already
again
set
in
up.
November.
This bill,
Yeah.
this place is set up for an election,
Let's move it.
so.
We can bring that one back to the next meeting, the August.
Okay. I think I am out July 8th. That week. You're out all week of the 1st?
Yes.
Okay. What are other folks' travel plans? Are you around, not around?
Oh, no.
I may be gone for the August meeting, but I will be around for July. As of right now.
No plans.
I have to check with my social director.
Should we cancel July 1 tonight, and then we can come back next meeting and talk about if we need to reschedule it?
Yeah.
You'll know more about
I will,
what
and
the
I
content
can
is.
survey your schedules and know what the content for that meeting would be.
Great. Sure, because we could also do something the last week of June if we needed to. We can move it back instead of.
Are we gonna have a special meeting on the trail in July, or is that
That was
just
gonna be
gonna
part of it, I thought.
be part of the regular meeting? And that was the second week of July we had talked about.
I forgot about that.
I know what?
I don't know. That's a really great
I'm just
point.
thinking about it because there's so much going on with the elections, so I'm just
Yeah.
trying to get a handle on things.
All right, why don't we do one step at a time then? Let's deal with July 1. We'll come back on June 20th, 21st is our next meeting?
June 17th.
June 17th. Got that all wrong. And we can talk a little bit more about the rest of the summer and what our needs might be.
That would be great.
Is that okay with folks?
So we're gonna not come here July 1st.
It sounds like that, well, I don't know.
We
Is
gotta
that
have a
what we
vote now,
want?
don't we?
Do you wanna make a motion now?
Yes.
We know we're gonna be without
You know
Brenda
I
at
don't
the
need
very
a motion
least
on
and
that.
maybe other folks.
I move we postpone or either bring it ahead or back our July 1st meeting.
Not cancel?
Yeah, cancel it,
Okay.
which will,
Because ultimately, what
whether
we do
she
would be a
has to bring
special
it forward
meeting.
or back.
So we'll have to,
So I'll bring back that as a separate item for you to schedule another meeting.
So your motion at this point is to cancel July 1's meeting.
July 1 meeting.
Okay. Is there a second to that?
I'll second.
All right, is there any other concerns, questions about that? Can we put on the next agenda then, like sort of summer calendar
Yes.
plans?
We can.
Great. What kind of vote you want to do for this?
We can just do a voice vote.
All right, so the motion is to cancel the July 1st meeting. We'll come back and talk about whether we have a special meeting anywhere in between. We've got a motion and a second, so I'm going to ask for a voice vote. All those in favor of canceling July 1's meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. Then the second issue is holiday closure of the township offices. You need our action on this, Superintendent?
I do. It would be for not only the township offices, but police and fire administrative offices and the senior center.
All right, so folks would have the day off, but they'd be using their PTO time or
Paid
maybe
time
some
off.
comp time.
Yes, or comp
Okay.
time.
Are there questions for the superintendent on that? Brenda?
Have we had problems in the past with people not wanting to use their PTO or?
None.
You're glad to have that day off.
People are very great, they have a lot of gratitude to have the time off, so they can make a long weekend. I have never had a question or a complaint regarding the practice of asking them to use paid time off.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It would be a very inefficient day, I would imagine, if we had folks come in on July 5th. Other concerns or questions about that concept? All right, then we're looking for a motion to close the township offices as described by the
So moved.
superintendent on July 5th.
I so move.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Want to do a voice vote on this one too?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so the motion is to close the township's multiple offices on July 5th and require staff to use paid time off for that day. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, that motion carries as well. I hope the staff have a nice
Thank
long
you.
weekend that weekend.
We appreciate it.
Last up is my added item. In front of you, board members, is a resolution that is similar to a resolution we did a year ago. For those of you in the audience, there's a copy up on the lectern. I looked at my notes and realized I did the exact same thing this year as I did last year. I was gone at that conference last week and did not get this into the agenda, so apologies that it's not part of the packet. But if you recall, last year, we pronounced June as LGBTQ plus Pride Month in Bath Township, and we flew the progressive pride flag for the month. I don't know if you all got feedback on this. The only feedback I got was very positive. We didn't see much fallout. Maybe some of you heard other things. But we'd be joining the state and other large municipalities in doing this. So being that we have done it before, it was successful, I think it's important as a welcoming community. I would ask us to consider this resolution again this year. None of the language has changed other than the dates, so there's nothing new in here from last year. Happy to take questions, discussion. Brenda?
I'm gonna make my statement that I made last year, that I thought we should have a policy on what types of flags, how they should be flown, and we still don't have that policy made yet.
Yeah.
So I don't, the flag itself is fine.
Yeah.
But we don't have a policy as to what other types of flags can be flown.
Yeah. Do you have thoughts on what should be in that policy?
No.
Do you want to chair that policy committee?
I just wanna make sure we're doing everything the right way. Do we need another flagpole? You know, what are the
Yeah.
guidelines? Can we say, if we do this, can we say no to some flags and yes to other flags? I mean, it just brings more questions.
Yeah, and you did bring that up last year, which I thought was a fair point. I think we did not see, and Superintendent, you can correct me if I'm wrong, anybody want to do a mad drive for other flags or concerning things
I'm
that
not
we
aware
thought
of-
might have come.
I'm not aware of any other requests.
Yeah, so, that could still happen this year. And maybe we should be thinking about other flags per months. I wouldn't want to stop this for that. I would rather do more, right, do all.
But I did say that last year and
You
nothing
did.
happened.
Yes, yeah.
But maybe nobody else agreed with me, so. that's
Well,
my
and
feel.
also, I sort of kiddingly nudged you, but if you have thoughts on a policy, I don't know who else would be, who we would task with that policy. Whether it's staff or whether one of us want to do that. I think it's a fair request. Other thoughts, Jack?
I do have a thought and a discussion. I guess basically what I want to start with is just explaining why I'm going to vote no on this. I think our country is so divided right now that this doesn't move us forward. All it's doing is helping to generate us being separated by specific groups. And at a government building, I think, you know, we're all Americans, whether we agree with everything that's happening in America or not. We're all Americans, we all stand under that flag, and that keeps us together. Trying to separate us by groups only causes more division, and then it becomes the question again, like was brought up, okay, so then what do? Do we take each step, so if somebody wants to fly a Confederate flag, do we try and decide if that's okay or not okay? If we want to fly a BLM flag, does it come before the board and we decide if it's okay or not okay? If we want to fly any flag that happens to be the current most important cultural or world thing at the time, whether it's flying the Israeli flag, the Palestinian flag, the Ukrainian flag, or the straight pride flag, for which most of you don't know there is one, do we have to actually take those individually? And then if we say yes to one and no to the others, will that help bring us together? Or will that only further separate us yet more? So having taken all those things into account, I would encourage my fellow board members to vote no, and I will be voting no.
Thanks, Chet. Other thoughts, concerns, questions?
I guess I view it differently. I would say that I see this as the opportunity to try and provide support to groups that have been marginalized throughout our country's history, all as citizens of this country. And under our country's flag, I think there are definitely groups that have been marginalized over time. LGBTQ plus individuals certainly would fall into that category, as would women and people of color. I don't know that Confederates have been marginalized necessarily. I would put them in that same category. And I think it's not necessarily appropriate to lump those two together in the same discussion.
Thanks, Kate.
So how will we vote on which group that we all feel is marginalized?
Oh, I think that
Like,
would
you could
probably
have
be
to have
tasked during
one
a
up for every day.
policy or wording or, well, like that Brenda had suggested earlier is, and I think that's definitely worth some consideration as to how do we proceed when other requests are made to the township to support other groups, as they eventually will, I would imagine. I think it's better to have your ducks in a row. But I think that recognizing June as Pride Month is not a atypical thing in this day and age. Certainly statewide and community-wide and other surrounding communities, that's taking place. And I'll be voting yes.
Other questions, concerns, thoughts? Someone willing to put a motion together?
I'll make a motion to support this resolution, recognizing June as LGBTQ plus Pride Month.
Is there a second? Well, I'll second that then. I rarely get to make a motion or second, so I will relish that one. Since there seems to be some divide, why don't we do a roll call vote just so we can make sure we know the numbers of where this lands? Does that sound okay?
Yeah. Ms. Wilson?
No.
Mr. Phillips?
No.
Ms. Kellerman?
No.
Ms. Hagerman?
Yes.
Mr. Rosecrans?
No.
Ms. Butler Challenger, no. Mr. Funes Bliss?
Yes. What's that number?
5.
Can I make a comment
5-2?
after?
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Sherry.
That I can see this, both sides of this truly, and I think, as you said, we have to have a policy and a thought of, like, right now, the Israelis, and we see our campuses rioting all over the country over this issue. It's not right and wrong, it's in the middle somewhere, and that's why I have to go with the no, is I think we need a lot of thought about where this goes. And I'm certainly not against it per se in any way, but we need to think through it.
Thanks, Sherry. Go ahead.
Lizzie, is this something that other people do? They have policies and stuff on this? Is this something you could help us with? And
Yes. Yes, we
Okay.
can.
Good
I'll
idea.
just leave it at that.
Yes.
So Karen, can you work with Lizzie on what something like that might look like?
I will. Thank you.
Great. Any other thoughts before we close out this topic?
Yeah, I'd like to just add a couple things here. It certainly is true that many different people from the beginning of our history have been marginalized in this country, and it's important to recognize those people. I just don't like to separate out one particular group over another, because I think that gets us in a problem about why would we then, we would have to almost say yes to every single request we have that somehow says I was marginalized somewhere along the line in the last 200 years, or you'd be picking and choosing, and I think that puts us in a really bad situation, a no-win situation. But I also think a lot of times people, what we're seeing is people are put in a position where they're losing their jobs, they're being lambasted on social media if they speak their mind about anything to do with any current, I mean, like Ms. Kellerman said, even the Palestinian and the Israeli thing is so separated our country. And would you not say that any of those groups have been marginalized? They absolutely have, both have. But where are you going to say to draw the line? And so that's why I kind of stand on, we can all stand under being American. And this community has been so open and accepting to everybody that I've ever come in contact with. I don't see a great hue and cry about, oh, we're not treating people properly, or we're marginalizing people, or whatever. But I think sometimes it's just out of fear that people are afraid. I know that after people watch this meeting, I'll be homophobic, I'll be transphobic, I'll be every phobia there is under the sun. But you know what? The people that really know me know that that's a lot of baloney. And so I wish that people would not have this constant fear of saying, look, let's stand together as one people, let's accept everybody like we've been doing in this community, and let's not try to separate people out and say, well, this one's more marginalized than that one, or this one's a more common one we've recognized than that one. Let's recognize everybody and just say we're not going to do that in this community. And that's the last thing I have to say.
Thanks, Jack. Other closing thoughts? I'll just say, for me, it's a moral issue, and I'm a type of person who knows where I feel morally on pretty much all the issues. So I don't have any problem voting on every flag anybody wants to bring in or have us fly, because I know what I think is important and what I don't. So I'm not afraid of this being, suddenly everyone's gonna bring a flag. In the 12 months since we've done this the first time, we've had, we think, 0 requests to do anything else. So I don't think that there's a lot of danger to that. But understand all of your votes in the majority rules. So let's move on. That brings us to item 15, the superintendent's report.
Thank you. I had prepared to share with you about Canine Officer Iko. I did that earlier in this meeting. Again, we will bring back something in weeks to come, possibly months, when it feels appropriate for Officer Mike Lapham to come before this board and be able to do that. As well, I'd like to share with you that we are continuing the hiring process. We are holding interviews for the recreation position at this time. We have filled the assistant cook position at the senior center. We have filled the full-time and the part-time DPW positions. So we are making progress in getting those new people on board. I'm happy to report that the newest member of our staff, which is the clerk's assistant to the clerk, began her first day of work with us today. And that went very well. So we are making progress, and we are, like the police department had been struggling to stay afloat, but we are close to being back at full staff, and very, very happy with the applicants that we have and the people that we've chosen to fill those positions. So making progress there. I would like to share something with you that Chief Smith gave me today. It's actually a letter from Congresswoman Alyssa Slotkin, and it's in regards to the situation that happened in Wacusta. And I would like to read this because I think our police officers and our community needs to know how we respond in situations like this. So, Chief Smith, I would like to extend my heartfelt gratitude to you and your officers for your swift response to the tragic hit-and-run accident in Wacusta. Your dedication to responding to the scene and ensuring the care of the victims was evident in the prompt and coordinated effort of your team and other first responders. I know that in law enforcement, you train and prepare for every situation, but this incident was particularly difficult and painful on so many levels, and without a doubt has taken a toll on all involved. I truly appreciate your ongoing efforts on this case and your commitment to serving and protecting the community. The compassion and professionalism you and your officers have demonstrated in the face of such a senseless tragedy are commendable. Thank you for all that you do. Best wishes, Congresswoman Alyssa Slockett.
Oh, nice.
I saw her last week on the island, and she asked how things were going in Bath, which I thought was very kind of her.
It was. We appreciate that. So that's all I have for you tonight, unless you have questions for me.
Questions for the superintendent? All right, seeing none, let's move on to the final public statement. Those in the audience who have been sticking around, they want to share something, you now have an additional 3 minutes to talk about any issue you would like to. If you are interested, please step up to the lectern and let us know what you want to say.
I'll try to be quick. Long story short, thank you for approving the road projects. I am very thankful, and I know our community and our I can't speak for our community, but I can't speak for our road committee either, but I'm sure, are appreciative of the board's past and the board's present support for our roads. We've got an awful lot of funding this year for roads, and we're very hard to coordinate within the other entities to not have issues. Now, when a house gets put in or a drain has to be fixed, you can't foresee them type of things, but other entities are contacted before projects are done to make sure that they're not rewiring or rerouting drains or whatever. So, and if we know we got a drain, for instance, in the past, we had Herbison Road culvert bad, and we held off on the Herbison Road project, did the Howell Road project, while that project set for a year, and then the next year followed that up. And the committee works very hard to do a mix of fixes and try to make a balance between the community outside this area and the northern and the southern boundaries, and try to work very hard at mixing them up and providing an equal balance. For instance, Hawk Hollow gets cut through a lot. That's a major cut through. A lot of money was spent on those roads, and they did all the roads while they were in there, so they didn't have to come back and do one little road that was already in good shape, but they were there, they did it as a money saving down the road. It's money in the bank right now because of the cost of the projects. But then we have a Hunter Road that's been put off and put off and put off, even though it doesn't have the same amount of traffic. We try very hard to make a balance between getting all the projects done the best we can with what funding we have. Some projects you can't. We have flooded areas that we can't address. We have sidewalk areas in districts that were brought up tonight that you'd have to re-tear the whole road up to fix the project, and we just really don't have funding for that priority-wise right now. And because of all the grant and money that was brought in extra for the Webster Road project, which I'm very grateful those that worked very hard to get us our extra funding. So I look forward to the future projects, but I want to thank the board for their support over the years for our roads, we have very good roads in our township, unless you go down Drum Number. And I think we are trying to address that as we speak. So thank you.
Thanks, George. Anyone else want to address the board?
Just real quick, we talked a lot about the struggles of staffing at the police department tonight. You know, we have a plan in place and it's working, and we're going to get there. But I just want to take a few minutes if we'd just recognize the officers that do work here. Because, you know, they're wonderful. I mean, they've given up time with family, come in early, they've stayed late, they've worked on their days off. And I think sometimes people don't recognize, you know, how much they actually give to the community. And, you know, this board has been great for supporting us in that endeavor, but I just want to give them a shout out because, you know, at this time when we're running about half staff, I mean, they're all ragged and tired, but they show up every day, so.
Thanks, Chief. Any other guests in the audience want to make a comment? Seeing none, we will move on to board member comments. I think, Kate, you started us last time. Sherry, do you want to start us this time?
Well, I just have a quick question for Mr. Roadfellow. We had my next door neighbor had a building project at his house. And you know when they have the concrete trucks and they clean them out? They didn't want to wreck his property, so they brought it over to mine. And then they dumped it in the ditch that the township or the county owns. And I had to go out in my tractor and push it onto my lawn. Who do I talk to about that? It was ridiculous. Police report, maybe? I mean, what do I do? I talked to my neighbor, and he doesn't have the equipment to move it. And this is rude, to say the least, let alone it was plugging up the ditch until I moved it.
Sure, or our attorney who
Where do
knows
I go?
what law sits.
It's just crazy.
Give advice to the general public, given that I
Okay.
don't represent the individual board member, but as to the general public, private property rights are not something that the township the township's police department is going to typically get involved in, except when it crosses the line into trespass. Technically, entrance onto property, even if with a object, is a technical trespass under the law. But also there tend to be some other resolutions available if you have those conversations. So certainly a member of the public could have a conversation with the local police. They might decline to participate, considering it more of a civil issue than a criminal issue. There are certainly conversations to be had at the county level if you wish, although I don't know that they will have a lot of recourse for you.
Well, that they plugged the township ditch is a bit of an issue to me.
Is it a township ditch or is it a county ditch?
It's a county ditch, and if you do contact the county, it is, because they have right of way to the roads, and they do have rules and regulations to where you dispose of your stuff, so my suggestion would be call the county.
County, okay.
Or the township office, and they'll call the county.
Yeah, your road commission is probably your next bet.
That's what I meant, the road commission, county road commission.
County Road Commission, okay. I just thought it was very strange.
I meant that County Road Commission, excuse me.
Yeah, for them to behave that way was just mind-boggling, truly.
Any other board comments, Sherry?
No, or thank you for coming, and thank you, Chief, for good luck with hiring.
Chad?
No, I have nothing further, thank you.
Jen?
I'm good, thanks.
I'll just remind folks that we have the documents on demand system. If you'd like township board packets or agendas, or packets and agendas sent to you, that it'll be done automatically, and you could do that for any of our committees. In our previous meetings, some folks have not understood how to get the materials. You will get this as soon as it is published. You will get it at the same time that board members get it or committee members get it. So it works very, very well. Go to our website and you'll be able to find out how to sign up for that. I want to send my condolences to the police department on their loss. It's very, very sad. 10 years of service is quite an honor. Must be one of our most senior officers at this point. So that's real. And then I'm just going to try to keep my myth busting, what I'm hearing, rumors in the township, to try to bring some truth. I would just beg people not to believe everything they read on the internet. If you have questions, email the board members, call the township, and actually ask somebody who knows what they're talking about to give you an answer. It's so helpful, to Jack's point about bringing us together in a community. I think it's really helpful when we're operating from the same set of information and not rumors. So I'm just going to keep challenging that in the coming months. Brenda?
Okay, I don't have anything.
Yeah?
Nothing.
Okay.
I would just also offer my condolences on the loss of Officer Heiko to Officer Lapham and the Bath Township Police Department. If you've ever had a dog that you've loved, it's one of the hardest things when you have to lose them. That's the worst thing about dogs, is we just don't get to have them for long enough. And to have one that was not only beloved by the officer, but by the community and the greater world, thanks to Facebook and social media. I think that's pretty special and a loss for our community. And then the second thing that I want to say is that at our planning commission meetings during the commissioner comments, Mr. Baker always makes sure to take time to thank the staff for the hard work that they do behind the scenes, and I think that that's really important. And it's, I think, a good idea to echo his sentiments at our Board of Trustees meetings, that a lot of hard work goes on behind the scenes that people don't realize, and I think it's important that we acknowledge that.
Thanks, Kate. With that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
And move we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we stand adjourned. See you in 2 weeks.
Do you need help doing anything?
No, I think I can make it.
I can carry your
I have to
paperwork
get
for
used to
you.
that. I have to get, that's gonna go.